I was invited to talk about food, and I was going to talk about food. In fact, last night, right here on this red dot, I rehearsed a presentation on food and poverty. And then I left here last night after both hearing Devonte rehearse and after turning on my radio in my car to hear about the tragedy unfolding in Paris. And it has consumed me ever since. I'm sitting on my phone all last night, flipping through Facebook, flipping through my news feeds, feeling scared, feeling sad, feeling fearful, feeling alone, feeling a whole range of emotions. Occasionally those emotions interrupted by little bings on my phone. At one point, this new Facebook feature telling me that a friend in Paris had checked in safe. It's a new feature that maybe some of you all saw, that folks near a tragedy could check in and a message would send to all their friends that they were safe. So I went to bed feeling this really heavy sadness, like many of you probably. And I woke up with a very different set of emotions. I woke up feeling a whole lot of anger. I laid in my bed this morning flipping through my phone, flipping through Facebook and Twitter, seeing the same emotions I felt the night before, that sort of grief and that amazing outpouring of mourning and solidarity. But I became really angry, but not angry in the ways I thought I would, or angry at the people I thought I would be. I became really angry at myself, and I became really angry with my friends on Facebook, because what I recognized in myself and my grief from last night was this very selective grief, this really powerful, overwhelming selective grief. Because without a whole lot of thinking, a whole lot of research, I could remember there were a whole lot of tragedies that have also occurred in the past few weeks. You know, ISIS killed 43 people in Beirut just last week. A suicide bomber killed 19 at a Baghdad funeral last week. Last month, there was a massacre in Turkey at a peace rally that killed 128. There was a bombing of a Yemeni wedding 2 months ago that killed another 128. And I began to think, why am I grieving so deeply over these people in Paris? And yet I didn't blink an eye, I didn't shed a tear, I didn't post a flag on my Facebook profile when any of those things happened, and I tried to justify it. I thought, my fiance, she lived in Paris for 2 years. She has 3 friends who still live in Paris. That's probably why I'm feeling these emotions. I thought my brother, his in-laws were just in Paris the day before this happened, and so it's sort of hitting close to home, and I tried to sort of justify it in my head. Why am I feeling these emotions? But eventually I just sort of couldn't escape the reality. That why I was feeling this grief in Paris that I didn't feel anywhere else was because these people in Paris looked like me and acted like me, which is to say they were Western whites. And I really wrestled with that. And I began to think what someone like my friend Cisse, a Lebanese girl who lived with us her senior year in high school in Lynchburg, was feeling right now, or Hussein Ali, a young man who moved to Lynchburg, where I'm from, and lived in my childhood bedroom for the last year and a half as several people in Lynchburg helped resettle him and his 2 sisters as they escaped Afghanistan. And I wondered what they would think of my ability to have my friends check in on Facebook and say, hey, everything's cool, I'm all right. And I wonder what they would feel to see this outpouring of grief, really powerful, important grief, targeted in this one very specific case, but not probably seeing or feeling that grief when folks like them from places like them die. And then I thought in my car about Jendaye's presentation that I heard her rehearse last night. And I'm sitting in my car and I'm just overwhelmed with emotion and I begin to cry because I think I begin to put together a few things. I think I'm hearing sort of the Black Lives Matter movement in a new way, and I think I'm feeling and sensing what maybe Hussein or Cisse might be feeling, which is, when are you going to mourn my life? When are you going to mourn the skin and body of people who look like me, people of color, the way we do mourn when people look like myself die? When is that going to happen? Later this afternoon, I went to pick up my little brother Devonte in Big Brothers Big Sisters. We've been paired together for 5 years. And I picked him up and we're talking about his grandpa. His grandpa died this year, or actually this week, and he went to the funeral this week. And we were talking about how beautiful it was. So many people were there mourning his grandfather's life. And even Devonte admitted to shedding a little tear there. And he said, when I die, I don't think people are going to be sad. I think people are going to be happy when I die. And I think he said that for a whole bunch of complicated reasons. But I think one reason is good, well-meaning people send the messages that certain lives are worth mourning more than other lives. And we grieve in different ways. And I'm not here to tell you not to grieve. I think grief is such a powerful, important emotion, and nobody, myself included, should be able to tell you to feel guilty about any grief, and I'm trying to tell myself that today. Don't feel guilty about your grief, because it's complicated enough without adding that guilt in there. What I am saying is in the future, we have to think differently about our grief. Our conversation today is supposed to be about made in the future, and I don't know much about what's going to be made in the future, but I do know what it's going to take for us to make it in the future. I think for us to make it as a people, as a human race, we're going to have to learn to grieve more deeply and more universally. We're going to have deeper love, which is going to inevitably lead to deeper heartbreak when people die. So my prayer for myself, and perhaps for you all, but certainly my prayer for myself and my hope for myself as I leave here, is that I learn as we move into the future ways to grieve more universally, that we develop the tools in the future that allow us to mourn and grieve and feel heartbreak in more universal ways. And so I leave you all with that hope and prayer that we can all in the future make it together by learning to grieve more universally. Thank you.